We're here talking about carnivore and reproduction. Of everything I've ever learned as a physician, it's like game changed. If you're waiting for a doctor to direct you to a diet, you're going down the wrong direction. Let me give you a pill, let me give you a diet, a lifestyle. Turns out that they're all wrong. That's the beauty of carnivore, is you can't really overeat.
I know. So when you're talking with women who want to have a kid and they're struggling, like this seems very common. And it seems very common for there to be a lot of miscarriages too. I'd be curious if you think that miscarriages are actually common, if like realistically, if everybody's eating carnivore. But do you recommend people eat carnivore if they want to get pregnant?
Well, keto is for the masses and carnivore is for the masters. I asked the question, what would you do to have a baby? And 99% of people say anything.
Right.
Even vegan vegetarians I've seen change, even those Hindus and whatever your religious belief system have changed, but it's a challenge and it's hard because the paradigm says that fruits and vegetables are good for you and red fatty meat is bad. And so we've been taught this since before we were born, by the way. This is ancient. This is not brand new. If you look back at Kellogg's and Edith White and the Seventh-day Adventists, and you really look at many of the marketing, and I call it the 5% rule. So the priest, the pope, the president, the pharaohs, the kings, and the queens control 95% of the world. Well, let's say 100%, but they're only the 5% or less. So they realized long ago that if I feed the masses mush, fruit, fiber, vegetables, cereals, basically, they will be addicted to those things. Addicted animals will do anything for what they're addicted to. If you realize that heroin, cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, and caffeine all come from plants, and we line up for coffee, pizzas, beer, plant material, but none of us are lining up for a ribeye steak because we're told it's bad. So you can go back thousands of years and realize the most powerful people recognized that meat was the master meal, and I'm going to control the hunting grounds, but I'm going to make the masses, the slaves, the soldiers, the peasants, and the prisoners grow the food, backbreaking and damaging, but it is highly addictive, and they will do anything for that, and that's our problem.
Okay, so you're saying basically that this is rigged, in a sense.
Well, it all is rigged because we know that tobacco, alcohol, sodas are not good for us, yet we'll line up to go have them. And even doctors are propagated how good they are. And I'm disappointed by the American Journal of OBGYN last year that said a healthy diet for a pregnant and or lactating woman was a plant-based, lean meat, no red, and red wine every day.
Oh, I know. Okay, that's such crap. So I talk about this all the time on my channel. It's like I stopped drinking when I was 25 or 26, and it was not because I wanted to. Like there was nobody around me that wanted to stop drinking. I wasn't an alcoholic by social standards. I was, I would drink on the weekends, but I would always take it too far. Not every time. It'd be like every 3 months. I'd be like, damn, like why did I drink so much or whatever? Like act out of character. I just felt horrible for days after I drank. And I saw, the real reason I saw actually my mom and her life completely deteriorate from drinking. And I only share that because it was life-changing to me. And unfortunately she passed away about 4 months ago. So I saw it, in real time, how it changes somebody, and I saw that in me. I was like, well, I'm no different. I don't judge anybody that drinks. Everybody I know who does in my life, they do drink. It's not a judgment thing. However, this crap about how it's good for you, 1 glass of wine at night, is just marketing. And I mean, I don't even think there's one real study out there, correct me if I'm wrong, that talks about this for heart health, even though they say so, and how it's like good for you with the different, whatever's in wine that they say is good for us.
It's like saying vegetables are good for us. and fiber is good for us. It's a propaganda, a lie of marketing to make a lot of money, and the goal of making a lot of money is making a lot of misery, because we have forgotten that we're all lions, and lions eat pigs, cows, and sheep, and pigs, cows, and sheep eat grass and grains. We're not a ruminant animal, and we've increased the number of calories we consume in a day many-fold over the last 100 to several hundred years. And so 3 meals a day with 3 snacks is deadly. A plant-based diet is deadly. We've been duped by the scientists who are paid by the masters of marketing to do things that are dumb, I say, all right? And so let's see, we're basically made of red meat.
Right.
So eating what you are, well, how does that not make sense?
It's our operating system. Yeah.
Right. And so Nazism, communism, whatever propaganda you want to put out there, whatever things that you've seen in this world that basically are concepts and ideas that are dumb, but they're propaganda, and we're easily confused. The story is simple. Occam's razor. Occam's philosophy was the simple answer is the one. But we're looking for some scientific, complicated idea of why we're all getting sick.
Right.
You are what you eat. Well, if you're eating like a pig, cow, and a sheep, well then, is it no wonder we are that way?
One of the reasons I was so interested in speaking with you is because I know you've been doing tremendous things for women with helping them have babies.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you.
I'm 30. I don't have kids yet, but I plan to. And it's sort of in that stage, where you really have to actually think about it, which is a little bit weird. And actually, can you give everybody kind of a breakdown of exactly what you do? Because I think you own one of the best and well-known clinics in the States. And I think I read that 60% of your clients actually come from out of state. So they come in to see you. And you've been doing a lot of work with the power of thought. I know diet has been a huge thing. And just give us a little rundown of what that's been for you and what that looks like now.
Well, I'm owner director of CMI Fertility Centers, which is, I believe, the most affordable IVF center in America, and we integrate Eastern and Western medicine. I've worked for years and years with bringing in alternative medicine, acupuncture, massage, meditation, prayer, herbal medicine at times. I delved in nutrition probably around 15 years ago. Before that, I was moving into the prayer, meditation, positivity, but we take care of men and women, couples and singles, same sex, opposite sex, doesn't matter. And recognizing the cause of all disease, including infertility, is strictly inflammation. And inflammation, in my opinion, is mostly driven by a healthy diet and lifestyle, which turns out to be propaganda and not healthy at all. So I recommend mostly a carnivore diet is the top of the line. Keto's okay. Fruit, fiber, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, in my opinion, are the cause of disease, and excessive exercise. And I could talk more specifically about all those, but I love what I do. And I was just a standard fertility physician in America, which is trained in the standard way of the differential diagnosis of diseases, and then it's either a pill, a shot, a surgery, or good luck to you. And but I've learned that the power of the mind is number one, faith first, and then what you eat is also paramount.
What's the problem right now? Is there a problem in terms of fertility? Because the way I read it right now, that testosterone levels are way down with men and women in terms of miscarriages. I think I found this study the other day that was like from the 70s, it's plummeted or something like that. It started plummeting in the 70s until now. And I read these things and it was like, well, it's going up. And I'm like, well, compared to 5 years ago, maybe it's gone up or something. But compared to 30, maybe I'm wrong though. So what is the problem?
Well, all diseases are on the rise. and infertility and all aspects of reproductive dysfunction, including polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, fibroids, adenomyosis, pelvic inflammatory disorders, bladder problems, kidney problems, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, colon cancer, they're all on the rise. One is on the fertility side, women are postponing their childbearing, but even without that, I believe because of our unhealthy lifestyle that's been defined as healthy, which is causing more and more diseases within all of us. And ultimately, the four predators, bacteria, yeast, viruses, and plants are the major predators of humanity. And we are ingesting a tremendous amount of plants that contain the bacteria, yeast, and viruses, which are causing the disease directly because it's all sugar. It ferments in our gut, which makes alcohol. And then plants contain estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So those inhibit our normal hormonal function directly. And then besides those chemicals, there's antigens like lectins, oxalates, phytates, latex, gluten, which basically are glycoproteins. They're small little shards of splinters, dust and dirt that get into our body via eating, drinking, breathing, or putting it on our body, that it gets into our body and our body says these are all foreign particles. So your body reacts with an inflammatory reaction to foreign particles and it causes inflammation.
Right. I mean, it's like you have to believe that what you're eating, similar to like what you put in your car, matters, right? And also, I mean, I've listened to a lot of your stuff and read a lot of your stuff, and I think we have a similar take on big food. I think a lot of people have a similar take on big food. But talk about a whacked out system that where a lot of marketing goes into it. It's a lot of profit, right? People are taught to eat a type of way, all the colorful advertising, particularly women. I know for a fact, I believe that fat made me fat for a very long time. I also know that I thought meat was going to make me fat and bulky. Even while lifting weights, I did everything I could to have like a little bit of meat and then a little bit more veggies. And it just isn't seeming like that's at all it.
Well, fat doesn't make us fat.
No.
Sugar does. And sugar comes from plants. And I don't care what plant it is, kale, asparagus, broccoli, lettuce, carrots, every plant you eat actually breaks down to sugar. And plant sugars are never required in the human diet. My sister died at 52 about almost 10 years ago. My best friend Dave Kilmer died of lymphoma at 52 about the same time. And what I've learned, and he was a healthy doctor. My sister had diabetes for 45, 50 years. What I learned is that the cause of disease is so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Inflammation from a plant-based, low animal fat diet.
So with your patients who, let's say women who want to get pregnant, right? I assume you get a lot of different people with a lot of different lifestyles, a lot of different foods they eat, right? Do you mentioned that carnivore is like the master. So I've listened to a lot of your stuff. It sounds like you believe like for somebody to get pregnant, and not just what you believe, what you've seen, I should say, is that when they go flip it to 100% carnivore or at the very minimum keto, you see quick results for the most part. Is that accurate?
Keto helps many. Carnivore is the very best.
Okay.
And I've seen many, even people that I've never seen, but they've read about it and they've talked about it, is they get pregnant, deliver a baby, they stop miscarrying, they feel better, IBS, colitis, Crohn's goes away, endometriosis is resolved, adenomyosis may be resolved, and even uterine fibroids may shrink. So I typically recommend one meal a day.
Yeah.
Because you want to reduce the work of the GI system significantly in order to heal the glycobiome. So the mucopolysaccharide layer that protects the bowel epithelium, okay? And this is kind of the magic of all of this. The bowel epithelium from the lips, even the skin has the sugar coating protect you all the way down, is damaged by eating food. It's damaged by plant-based lean meat. See, lean meat is not good for us. You want to eat fatty meat. So yeah, my patients, this is why I write about it, I talk about it, because I became a physician to help people. But what I've learned is that I've actually been hurting people because I've been supporting the wrong diet or not even giving them an opportunity to say, well, wait a minute, maybe if you change your diet, you might conceive and deliver a baby and stop miscarrying, even in women in their 40s with a low AMH, and maybe they had no eggs with IVF. I've seen carnivore get babies.
And it's relatively quickly, right? I think
It's relatively quickly because look if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict and you stop using that, in literally 1 month, your body is significantly cleared of all the toxins.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that doesn't mean the damage is cleared or your addiction is cleared, but the actual direct toxicity of the alcohol, of the drug, or in this case of the plant antigens, plant chemicals, and the plant sugars,
right,
can be washed away between fasting 3 to 5 days, rock solid, amazing. I recommend 23-in-1 every day. 1 meal a day at night is like the very best because likely we evolved eating 1 meal a day or less. I mean, to go hunting and find food, that took time
right.
and work. So is it better to be skinny or fat in a famine?
Probably fat, yeah.
Right. So is it actually smart to try to be skinny?
Not really. No, it doesn't make sense if you talk about particularly women in a lot of ways. Childbearing.
Childbearing requires fat, and between a fat butt and a fat breast and fat everywhere in your body, and your hormones are made of cholesterol and fat. Your entire reproduction depends on that. And then for so many women, when they get pregnant, let's say you can't find food for a month. If you're not fat, your fetus is doomed. And then hyperemesis, which is a protective mechanism to prevent you from eating toxic food. If you're skinny, you're doomed. Your baby's doomed. And really the protective mechanisms of humanity is fat, which turns out to be the only fuel for your body, by the way.
Animal fat.
Yes, your fat is the fuel for your body, not sugar. Glucose is not the energy for anything in your body.
So let me ask you this. So if you're saying, like your recommendation for pregnant women and people in general, but also pregnant women, it seems is what you believe is, and what you've seen results in is 1 meal a day, typically at nighttime. And so if I'm doing that right, I know for me, when I have 1 meal a day, I lean out. It doesn't matter if I'm having a lot of fat. So how does that work?
Well, because you mentioned something about really feasting it up, and you were full.
Yeah, I went hard tonight.
So how often do you eat a pound of fat?
Oh God, I don't think I have.
Pound of fat.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So now if you had the kill, and remember, we evolved as small little tribes, not huge tribes. And so for thousands, if not millions of years, we probably had our pick of the large animals, and we ate the organ meats, the fat, a tremendous amount of that. Okay. Now let's just say, I don't know what size we really were, but our measurement of fat and skinny may be incorrect.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it
Or
changes. It's a fashion thing. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, actually being pale, and for white people at least, being more pale was attractive and bigger, you know, and that's just, at least in European cultures, right? That it changes all the time.
so if you look at polar bears and many other mammals, they must be fat enough to reproduce, otherwise they won't. And then they must be fat enough to hibernate and or nest, and they burn and utilize fat, not muscle, not bone, fat, to grow their fetus and deliver a fetus. And then they breastfeed the fetus. And they're not eating. So if you realize that being skinny is dumb and fat is fit and fertile, obesity causes no disease, by the way. I don't care if you're 300, 400 pounds. That is not the cause of your disease. The cause of disease is what you ate. The food not only gained you weight, which was critical for survival, but because you're eating a plant-based diet, it contains foreign sugars. It contains chemicals and antigens that are harmful for our cells. They damage our reproduction, they damage our mitochondria, they damage your brain. Schizophrenia, psychosis, suicide, criminality, depression, ADHD, OCD is secondary to a plant-based low animal fat diet.
So, okay, so if I'm a chick, right, and I want to get pregnant and I'm normal weight, right? Like whatever. What
Yeah,
what
yeah.
what give me like a quick rundown of like a diet to have. EBBIS diet.
Bacon, eggs, butter, beef. Occasionally you can have a little bit of my ice cream and salt.
Okay, so and you're saying if one wants to get pregnant, have all that in one meal, typically at night if you're going to eat it all. Have however much you want
Okay.
at the night.
Right, but I'm not focusing on the fasting first. You want to focus on the change in your diet first. Because to go from a standard eater of 3 to 6 meals a day to carnivore is a transition. One is you need to listen and learn from yourself and others. You need to watch and read about it because the brain needs to hear the propaganda. And then you need to see women like yourself and your story, and then other women's story, because what's the first thing most women want and why they diet?
To lose weight.
That's correct. So let's just say they don't want to be bulimic or anorexic, but they want to look hot and beautiful, right? They don't want to look overweight and unhealthy as people have labeled, which I disagree with, by the way. So they want to get there first, and going carnivore, and I don't care if you eat 3 meals a day or whatever you want, but carnivore is a fat to protein at least 1-to-1 in volume because the fat suppresses appetite, suppresses inflammation, makes you feel great. And what do you want to do when you feel great? And then you want to go for a hike in the woods, you want to go for a walk, you want to hang out with some friends and do some great fun things. But when you're depressed and you're getting fatter and you feel miserable, what do you want to do? You want to eat food and you want to sit around and do nothing.
Well, so that brings me back to what you were saying before of like if you're 400 pounds, 300 pounds. In my opinion, I look at that as like that's not actually the way humans are designed. Now, I'm not saying anything bad against how people look and all that. I am saying that by the sheer way that our body moves and the bones and the muscles that we have and what our body is designed to do in terms of catching food, chasing food down, it doesn't appear that having like that much weight on the body would actually make one healthy. Now, do I think that there's probably a lot of information that may counter that? There's probably something out there, but I'd be curious as to some stories you have for that.
Okay, so how many people that are 300 pounds, 250 pounds can run and do plenty of work and move?
I mean, I don't have the
Lots.
numbers, but
No, they're just most people, okay? Now, let me put an extra 100 pounds on your body today and go do your work. Would that be easy? I want you to carry around 100 pounds all day.
It would
Extra.
it would be harder.
It'd be very hard, almost nearly impossible initially, all right? So let's just imagine those people that are 250, 300, even 400 are very strong. They're not laying in bed all the time. They're doing more work than you know, number one. Number two, again, we judge because we've been taught that obesity is unhealthy, but I'm just suggesting take a moment and imagine it's not, all right? Now, I'm not saying that's where people want to be and it's good for you, but if you're there and there's a pestilence, war, or sickness for 3 to 6 months, who's in better shape?
Well, sure, that person.
So what are the odds for the last million years? Wait, let me just,
Okay.
For the last million years or 1,000 years, what are the odds that you had times where you cannot find food?
In the last how many years?
1,000.
Probably a lot fewer than a lot million, but
No,
yeah.
a lot, because war, go to a war zone right now. How often was war in this world? Is war in this world?
Yeah, it's a
A
lot.
lot. And do you know how many people starve to death because food is very difficult to get? All right. So what I'm suggesting is the brain. See, again, I just want us to throw away our judgments of what we think something is.
Like you're saying, I get what you're saying. Like, let's have an open mind to what actually might be a different reality.
I help obese women, I don't even like that word, heavier
plus
women
size
have
women.
babies
Probably plus.
all the time, plus size,
Yeah.
yes, have babies all the time. Skinny women don't have babies.
You know, my mom actually had a few miscarries. She was very thin when she was trying to have.
Right. So my best friend that died of cancer was thin and healthy. Sarah Hallberg was thin and healthy. All I can tell you is we judge, we need to step back and go, why do we get fat? Because we're meant to.
If we're off of the right things, though.
Well, no, I'm just suggesting that we're meant to get fat. Now, we're not meant to be morbidly obese, but the reason we are is because what's the recommended diet habits? It's fruit, fiber, vegetables, seeds, nuts, lean meat, 3 to 6 meals a day. What does that cause? What does that cause? And it causes you to get obese and then get the diseases. Now, when you get a disease and you feel, how easy is it to lose weight? It's not.
Not really.
Billion-dollar drug companies are making drugs for people to lose weight, but they still get fat again.
Well,
even the surgeries.
Sure. And so with that said, I'd be curious. So it sounds like, I'm going to repeat this back and then I wanted to ask a follow-up question. It sounds like
Sure.
What you're saying is for women who want to get pregnant, you don't want to be skinny. For women who you want to be healthfully, let's not say plump, but you want to have some meat on your bones and you want to have a diet, a lifestyle. And I hate the word diet, honestly, because it sounds like, what we've all been taught. Yeah, it sucks. Okay, cool. So, and I say lifestyle, right? So, I saw that you interviewed Brian actually about this, Brian Sanders with Sapien Center. I work with him as well. So we have similar takes on this, but it sounds like what you recommend for women there's a lot of women who watch this, all right, cool. I need to have some fat on my body. I need to focus on carnivore if I'm going to do it, and also not be scared to be a little bit plump. Make sure that I'm getting the right thoughts, lifestyle, having fun and joy, making sure this is what I need to have. But then also, having one meal a day, maybe into the day, isn't going to starve my baby, the fetus. It seems like if the woman has a healthful weight, then that's okay, right?
The food you eat today is not the fuel for your baby until it's converted to fat.
Okay.
See, this is, again, it's a hard one because glucose is the primary fuel for your body, correct?
Yes.
What if that's not true?
Well, you're saying glucose is it can be used as, I'm sorry, I just responded just your reaction. It's fat, I believe. That is.
Right, it's only fat. So what's the standard diet? It's fruit, fiber, vegetables, seeds, and nuts, and lean meat. Is there any fat in that? No, none. The majority of people that are overweight do not eat fat.
Yeah, see, it's the low fat diet that makes people fat.
Because now, but again, if you're out in the wilderness 10,000 years ago, where did you find ripe fruit to eat?
Depends on where you were.
Well, it was only seasonally.
Yeah.
So now, why are we addicted to sugar? There's a reason.
Well, I would imagine it's because our body needed that in the times of when it was seasonal, and we needed that to supplement our diets. And so it was telling us to get it while we could.
Correct. Like a bear. Bears are omnivores. They will eat as much fruit as they can seasonally to gain weight, to get fat, to survive the winter and or gestation. Okay? So because sugars must be converted to fat in the liver via insulin, you must have a healthy liver. If you have no insulin and you have a faulty liver, you cannot gain weight by eating plants. But if you eat fat does not go directly to the liver. It goes through the lymphatics. It's digested differently than amino acids and simple sugars. See, the science of the human body is remarkably amazing. The liver, all the blood flow of the bowels goes to the liver because amino acids and sugars go to the hepatic portal bloodstream to go to the liver. Insulin goes from the pancreas direct to the liver in order to convert those two things to fat. Glucose is not put into the cells of every cell of your body via insulin, because if that were true, then a liver failure patient would be fine, but they're not. They're emaciated, skinny, and they can't make fat. And we didn't eat grains for thousands and millions of years. That's just a new thing. Grains are new, but grains contain opiates, morphine, antigens, glutens. They contain addictive chemicals. They contain antigens that are inflammatory, like lectins, oxalates, phytates, some of those things. And if you realize it, that many people are allergic to seeds and nuts. Agree?
Yeah, it's seed oils is a crazy thing too, you know?
Well, I'm not gonna bash seed oils tremendously. I think they're not good for us, but we've been distracted. Okay? See, the cause of disease is the plant sugars, the plant chemicals, the plant antigens, and the fermentation of the plants in the gut. That's it. That's the majority, all right? Because most people are not drinking plant oils. They're sprinkling them on and cooking. And what are they cooking?
Depends.
Vegetables.
Yeah,
Vegetables.
so it depends.
Pasta.
Probably Brussels sprouts.
Yeah, I had dinner tonight with my friend, and he had Brussels sprouts. I didn't touch them, there was one other point I wanted to make that is really difficult to understand. Fat is the fuel for our bodies,
Sure.
and that's it. Sugars must be converted to fat in order to fuel every mitochondria and to provide the energy for your fetus.
Okay, so all right, that's an interesting point, because tell me this, like, as a woman, if you're going through 9 months, right? You're saying eat carnivore that entire time, and then your baby, and then a toddler. What have you seen?
Well, all I can tell you, I have plenty anecdotal information from people that are doing it, but all you have to realize is that once again, are plants ever required in the human diet? They're never required in the human diet. The World Turned Upside Down, Richard David Feynman, great book. When I read that, I don't know how many years ago, and it said carbohydrates are never required. I'm like, wait a minute. How come they gave my sister Marianne a ton of carbs and insulin?
Right.
Because we doctors don't know anything about the physiology of the human body. We just listen to the propaganda that we're taught in medical school and undergraduate science, by the way. See, you think that, well, the science, they know the metabolism and physiology of the human body. They don't.
Yeah.
You can go months without food.
Yeah, you can go a long time. You can go a real long time.
Correct.
It's much harder to go without water.
You can go a minute, 2 or 3 without air, a day, 2 or 3 without water, and a month, 2 or 3 without food, depending on how much fat you carry.
Right. And I think it's rather counterintuitive because so like back to the question with toddlers, right? Like if a woman who wants to get pregnant, she wants to have some fat on her body. In order to do that, she can eat a carnivore lifestyle that lowers inflammation in her body and allows there to be less sugar in there, but also allows for her to potentially have a higher fat diet and where she can actually bear a child. Well, then wouldn't you think that the mom would want to train her child, teach her child to the baby to have that?
The problem comes because the healthy lifestyle propaganda is powerful to the brain.
Well, no, sure, but I'm saying all propaganda aside, would that be a recommendation that you would have, or do we not have enough data
Oh,
yet?
no, 100%.
Okay.
So moms should be carnivore. Uh, Lactating mom, breastfeeding mom should be carnivore. And once the baby's done with the breast, should go to the bone and eat the bone broth, eat the meat, and that's the way.
And
Because
and the baby
we
as
have
well.
no other. Babies, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So from the breast to the bone.
Okay. And do you ever find anything like as far as data that you ever see with electrolyte deficiencies in this space in terms of, you know?
Okay, I did internal medicine. I've done it all. Electrolyte deficiencies are extremely rare. They're happening in people with diabetes, with other metabolic disorders that are related to a plant-based diet. You don't need mineral water. You don't need all these mineral supplements 99% of the time. What supplements do most human beings utilize for the last million years?
I mean, I would say probably none. However, the way that our soil is and the way that our water is now is kind of jacked up.
Well,
It's different.
yeah, but you're right, but those are not the diseases we're seeing, right? Everyone says, well, the environment, but the diseases we see are related to a plant-based low animal fat diet. That's the 99% of the diseases we see are related to glycation.
Mm-hmm.
Glycation is the abnormal binding of a sugar to anything in your body, which causes the misformation and misshape of a protein. Or it damages the mitochondria. The mitochondria cannot make ATP. Cell dies, cell does something. And so the diseases we suffer from are related to alcohol, drugs, and a plant-based diet. And the majority of people, their diseases are like, well, I don't know why you got that. That's our answer. I don't know.
Right. And so, okay, as far as success stories, I'd love to hear like a couple, that you maybe have for women that were struggling or.
The stories are between pregnancy and just in carnivore stories, right? These are just standard carnivore stories in this book. And then if you go to our family building guide, we got stories in here also, or on our website, CNY Fertility or drkiltz.com. But there are plenty there. I had one vegan, for 10 years I took care of them, 30 treatments of IVF and IUI and embryos and donor eggs and embryos. And finally she quits. She goes carnivore at 41, gets pregnant, delivers a baby on her own.
How long did it take for her to get pregnant after going carnivore?
Oh, it's like within a few months.
Wow. Okay. And she struggled for how many years?
10 years. I took care of them from 30 to 40. And finally, she was a vegan vegetarian forever. Her religious belief systems pushed her there. Remember, religious belief systems are societal power moves. So you can believe in what you want to believe, and I believe in God, but if the propaganda that maybe is telling you can't eat this and you can't eat that, now there are ways to go to get around it, by the way, even for vegan and vegetarians and Mediterraneans, but if it's not working, the top of the line is going to be carnivore and fasting. Because even as a vegan vegetarian, I say fast, at least fast and add fat. ghee, butter, cream, cheese I don't love. And then for the vegans, it's coconut oil.
Right. Yeah. Very clean cut coconut oil, making sure it's not cut with something else.
Yeah, of course. My world is fertility, but every single disease we talk about has the same reason for their problems. They're not different.
Right. Okay. Now, like, do you have data on this? I don't know what you have, or like metadata, right? I don't know what that looks like, and I'd be happy to obviously reference everybody to your site so they can visually see it.
There's one scientific project is required. You know what it is?
No.
It's you. Listen, scientists will argue all day long about the data. I'm a scientist. I've written papers. I've been in lawsuits because of a patent on a science project, and then I come to find out it's all wrong. You think published data gives you an answer? It doesn't. See, this carnivore world, I'm just giving you my opinion.
Sure.
The carnivore world is mistaken, thinking that let's get all the data together and the science, okay? You can't beat the propaganda machine, because it will always trump the story, because it's all marketing. Science is marketing. Science is no more science than you think it is. Faith, belief, and science are no different. It's a mindset. So the carnivore way is a mindset way. It's a power play. If you're looking for the data to kind of prove something, you're going to wait the rest of your life, and you don't have time for that. The story is simple. We're lions. And just go online and start listening to people like yourself. That's where the story is, right? Because there's going to be a vegan story that's going to share the same thing. And that's the propaganda. Now, that's in my opinion. So, do we have stories? Tons of it. But randomize a patient to carnivore or vegan or vegetarian or Mediterranean, right? That won't be done. Stephenson, Valhall Stephenson, do you know Stephenson? From Vladimir Stephenson in 1900 something, went to live with the Inuits. And then when he came back, he wrote all about it. His writings are all over. And then in 1920 something, they put him in a hospital with a friend for a year. They fed him only meat. The science is there. It's already there. You don't need anything else. If you read, have you ever read?
What happened though? What happened when they fed him meat?
Well, he was better than ever.
So is that like, that's what I mean, is like, what was the turnaround?
Oh, the turnaround was fast, and he did fine. But the science is already there. If you read James Henry Salisbury's book on alimentation and disease, he was an MD from Albany Med in 1850. He was in the Civil War. He actually was a chemist and a microscopist. He actually proved that the microbes in the gut were proliferating in a plant-based diet. They went up through the esophagus and down into the lungs and up into the upper respiratory system. They went down the rectum, up into the vagina, and they caused dysentery and every disease you and I know. So again, I'm not, listen, I'm simply the storyteller, that I will tell you that this story, people are looking at people like yourself and myself and say, wow, 30, 67, wow, you've lost a few pounds, you feel great, you're sharing this because you believe it. But lies, damn lies, and statistics, Mark Twain. The majority of scientific studies are propaganda. They're actually not even very accurate. Now, you probably don't want to hear that. The NIH is funded by the Rockefeller Institute. Do you know this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all funded by somebody.
The Flexner Report. Look at the Flexner Report. This is fun stuff, by the way. And I don't, listen, but I'm a clinician. I can argue the science, and I can spend all my days calculating and doing it. It will never make the light of day in a standard journal.
And do you think that's because there's other forces out there that want something else, or because you can find data to prove anything you want?
100%. 100%. My grandmother lived 104. She smoked Pall Malls, drank Manhattans, and she was whatever. But I look at see why some people are sick from standard diet and not others. Do you know what the answer is? I don't know. But that's not the question. The question is what's causing disease. The cause of disease is a plant-based low animal fat diet and eating like a grazing animal.
Well, but see, my counter to that is that you must have either it's enough stories or enough data to say that not a carnivore but a plant-based diet is bad. I'm with you. Look, I eat carnivore or animal-based really, but what I'm saying is like, where are the general things that one who is plant-based can be like, you know what? Damn, there are enough stories.
Do you know Otto Warburg?
I don't know.
Otto Warburg figured out in the early 1900s that glucose was the cause of cancer.
Okay.
Well, he was a Jew in Nazi Germany, and he managed to thrive and survive. Well, he survived Nazi Germany because Kitlz was very afraid of cancer. All right. So you haven't heard of Otto Warburg's story, and yet it's already the story that's proven the data. But the problem with science, it doesn't matter. Who's the biggest marketer? That's what matters.
Right. I absolutely.
Propaganda. Listen, I've collected data. I've published data. It all gets lost because do you know how many data points are already been collected? Infinite. Because everyone's arguing whether or not glucose or fat or we convert because we're metabolically flexible, right? And it does no good. If people come to me and they're sick and they're infertile and they want to have a baby, I will go over their history. I will share with them the ways of healing. Nutrition is just one way. It's not the way because I don't know what your way wants to be because you're in charge of you, not me. My job, though, is to go over the surgical corrections, the medical corrections, the nutritional corrections. But number one is the mindset correction. Okay?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you brought that up because I talk a lot on my channel about how I believe that we can design our own realities in a lot of ways in terms of how we think about things and how we can open up our worlds to things that might be a bit more energetic rather than just quantifiable maybe. And if we can just maybe think different or like think, it sounds so cliche to say think positive, but really train our brains to think positively in different ways or look for the positive things. It does something energetically. It does.
So I wrote a book called The Fertile Secret.
Yeah. I'm halfway through it right now, actually.
Oh, wow. But I wrote the book based on Rhonda Byrne's book, The Secret. Now, I was raised Catholic. I became an atheist. And from there, I became an agnostic. And then I went through Buddhism and spirituality. I wound my way back to Catholicism and Christianity. Now, I don't go to church, but I have faith in God because the philosophy of Jesus Christ is like the master work, love and forgiveness, non-judgment. So just that. So there's another book called The Three Magic Words. The three magic words are I am God. I am the creator of all reality. Because your brain creates me. My brain creates you. So your brain needs to be retrained, like my brain, in seeing everything as the most amazing thing ever given by God. Because when you can do that, you could take control of every environment, including the battle of life. Because it's not a battle. It's a creative, artistic experience.
Right.
But God is the most amazing invention by humanity. And so I always say faith in God is always first. The trouble with the word God is people get conflicted over religion, but ultimately higher power, what do human beings call the highest power?
God.
God.
A lot of them.
What's that?
A lot of them do.
Well, ultimately, that's look,
A lot of people
we're
call it
only
the universe, you know, there's a different way of putting it.
right, but that's called God. We created the word Allah, God, Vishnu, whatever the word is, but that is the most powerful concept. So we're fighting God because we're fighting ourselves. Because the only conversation we ever have is with ourselves. And because the brain is the creator of sight, sound, taste, smell, feelings, everything. If you control the brain, the thoughts, after my experiences with loss, depression, frustration, anxiety, I was like, okay, my friend who was a Buddhist put me onto a bunch of stuff 20 plus years ago. He wound up dying of cancer. I've learned a lot from that also, by the way. He was a vegan, vegetarian, really. And what I've learned is that you can think your way in or out of anything. But that's the hardest thing for people to understand. Because if I use the word God, people go like, oh, no, no. Like we say, oh, what God? There's no God. You know, we get all conflicted because the universe pushes our buttons.
Do you think you could think your way into being pregnant, or do you think it requires carnivore and then thinking positive to get there?
Faith is always first. I don't care what diet you eat. Faith, number one. Because of thought, because even in this conversation a little bit, you don't agree with everything I say. Would you agree?
No, I would say I question a lot of things, so I don't just agree.
Okay, right, right. So my point is for all of us. I don't care who you are. There's always going to be something. The brain says no, no, no. Okay, it might be able to say no, 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 but oh, let me think about that. Okay, because that's the way we want to lead with. But ultimately, the brain is the creator of every experience in your life. But I grew up in LA, kicked out of school, couldn't read in a gang, my father in jail. I had migraines as a kid, bowel problems, ADHD, OCD. I couldn't sit still. But that too was propaganda. So I don't look at any of that as a negative. I look at all of that as a positive.
Oh, sure.
And I do look at the fact that I ate cereal, pasta, bread, salad, vegetables, and lean meat as the cause of my problems, along with the propaganda.
It's always propaganda too.
Always propaganda. And what's the most important thing in the universe? Reproduction.
The point of life
That's it.
is reproduction.
We are born to reproduce. But we've been duped to believe we should be something and have plenty of money in the bank and be prepared for a baby. What animal in the universe needs to prepare for a baby?
You could say one would make a nest. Birds make nests. But
what do you need in order to do that? A lot less than you realize.
Sure.
And my point is that we are working to prepare for something, but you already are prepared because God gave you the DNA of a human, majestic lioness and lion.
right. In following up with what you were saying, like there's so much language out there, and we've been taught so much that we need to eat a type of way, drink a type of way, or that we don't even think about it and we don't even question it. I mean, the food chart that came out this past year, can you believe that? Mind blowing. It's like, what? Because it affects the way public schools get food too. It's not just if we have choice. It's like what goes into the system and what people have access to, because what people abide by in code and what's allowed in schools and all that stuff. And it's just like, you know, for me, I grew up with eczema. I grew up kind of fat. I grew up, luckily I didn't really have very many like health issues, but I had a lot of anxiety. I was on antidepressants for 10 years. I mean, I dropped out of college. I was anorexic because I could not bear the idea of eating meat because I thought it would make me fat. I weighed 100 pounds at 5'8". That's 50 pounds lighter than I am today. That's wild. And like, I suffered. I was just miserable. And it was all because I was misled by not only just like, okay, sure, if you don't want to eat carnivore, but the things that we are taught to eat are totally like the processed food, and then the grain, and then the things that go on top of it. They make you hungry. They make you sick. And then you feel crazy because you don't know why you're hungry, and you don't get it. And it's just this cycle that you fall into. And then these poor women who can't have babies, they want to have babies more than anything else, obviously more than anybody, and they just can't. And it's like, there's so much more out there to us, to what we can do, power of thought, the food we eat, that, I can speak to it firsthand, as can you.
Mind, mouth, and motion. The first thing to really change is the mental construct of who and what you are. To love yourself. I see all these supermodels and all this hype about look like this and look like that, and ultimately you have to be very discerning of where you want to go. And I think faith in God, all of us, that's what the real words are about. Have faith in thyself. Love thyself. And with that, as you're learning new and different things, you can move towards or away. We're here talking about carnivore and reproduction. Of everything I've ever learned as a physician, it's like game changed. Everything we do is about reproduction, all of us. And you don't have to fast. You can eat a couple of meals a day, but if you just add more fat, you'll be fine. You feel better.
This was fantastic. I have so many, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on with you, because I think we share a lot of similar mindsets on how all this works and what we believe in. What I would love to do is direct people to where they could find more of your information. What's your YouTube channel called? What's your Instagram?
Just go to drkiltz.com, DOCTORKILTZ, drkiltz.com. Although I'm an Italian in my heritage, I somehow have a strange Kiltz name, but that's a whole nother story. But I'd love to chat more, because this is critical and important. Women drive the universe. Women need to take control of their health, and they need to take control of their family's health. If you're waiting for a doctor to direct you to a diet, you're going down the wrong direction. Preventive medicine doesn't work. We've tried it. Let me give you a pill. Let me give you a diet, a lifestyle. Turns out that they're all wrong. Cholesterol is critical to your hormones and every cell function of your body.
Which is a whole other world.
We can do this again. I'd love to do it again. I love this, Lauren. I think, again, I've been listening to your stuff. It's really, really rock on. And the more stories, if you go to Amazon.com and Google Dr. Kiltz, or look at drkiltz.com, let's see, The Fertile Secret. I have a couple of books on inspiration and meditation. Keto for Fertility, which is a cookbook. And I just came out with Kiltz's Keto is Carnivore.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for being on this and taking the time.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing it. I love to talk some more. Love to have you and talk about it on our blog. This is the game changer of health and wellness.